While I'm sure there are some theologians who defend the claim that God can do literally anything, including contradictions, this is typically not how omnipotence is understood. Instead, God's omnipotence is typically understood to be the claim that God can do anything that's logically possible. So this idea that God's omnipotence means God can do everything that's logically possible goes back at least as far as Thomas Aquinas in, I think, the 13th century. So in Summa Theologica, Aquinas says, God is called omnipotent because he can do all things that are possible absolutely, which is the second way of saying a thing is possible. For a thing is said to be possible or impossible absolutely, according to the relation in which the very terms stand to one another. Possible if the predicate is not incompatible with the subject. In other words, anything that doesn't involve a logical contradiction, like a married bachelor or a four-sided triangle, is something that God can do. But does the fact that God can't make contradictions, like a four-sided triangle for example, does the fact that God can't make contradictions real impose a limit on God's power? Well, no, says Aquinas, because contradictions aren't actual things, they're meaningless. Aquinas says, contradictions cannot come under the divine omnipotence, not because of any defect in the power of God, but because it has not the nature of a feasible or possible thing. Hence, it is better to say that such things cannot be done than that God cannot do them. So in short, we could argue that God's omnipotence means God can do anything logically possible. The idea of something that God cannot do isn't an actual thing, it's contradictory and therefore meaningless, and so this doesn't impose any real limit on God's power.